Well, welcome today to our special guest. We have Tina Lorenz here, and I'll give you a little bit of background on her, but first I want to give you her what I'll call formal title, which is the Queen of Copy, and also known as the Millionaire Maker, and we'll get into why she has these titles through this interview, but I just want to welcome you today. And I know I haven't introduced myself, but in case you're new to me, I'm Camille Attell, and I'm from the site More Than a Wheelin', but I assume you know that because you found this recording. So with that, a little background on Tina. She and I actually met at a conference for RVers, full-time RVers, and we've been following each other ever since, and I've been watching her journey as she has shared more about her background, and I've seen her on different summits and conferences talking about her journey with copywriting. So she's the real deal, and I'm really excited to have her here today to share all her knowledge and wisdom with you. So welcome, Tina.
Oh, thank you, Camille. I'm happy to be here, especially with RV people. RV people.
I know, right? We really enjoy our community, don't we?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to get us going with, I know you're going to talk a lot about copywriting and how folks can get into it, but I do want to back up and hear a little bit about your background. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started actually with copywriting.
Sure. Well, one of the things I like to start with when I have these types of interviews is I got started way late. Okay, so the first thing I like to encourage people is it's really seriously never too late. And I'm going to really super compress my stories because we could be talking here for hours. But basically, I got to where I am now without a college degree. I was on my own from the time I was 17 years old, went through a horrendous traumatic event in my 40s, literally narrowly escaped being murdered by, honestly, a psychopath. Lost everything except my life and my children in that process. This was not my children's father either. And we had to literally run for our lives. So I ended up in a domestic violence shelter in my 40s, very traumatized. Fast forward to met my current husband, who just kind of stood by my side as I went through the process of figuring out what the heck had happened to me and to my children, and surviving that and moving past surviving that into thriving. And so how I got the copywriting event, we were RVers. We ended up being RVers because this guy started stalking us. That was one of the things that actually got us out into the RV faster than we were thinking we were going to do, because we had to really start over with nothing. When I met my husband, he didn't have anything, and I absolutely had nothing, no money, and managed to get an old RV. We had, I think it was like a 40-foot, oh shoot, I can't remember the brand right now, some old fifth wheel and an old truck. And that's how we started, our very, very first RV. I had to learn to drive it because my husband's legally blind. And he was just going through the process of getting to the point with that he really could not drive anymore when I met him. And so I'd never driven anything bigger than a minivan. And now I drive a 45-foot motorhome. But I started, from that. So we started traveling, and we found some unusual RV type jobs at the beginning. We did promotions for a big ad agency, mobile promotions. So we did Got Milk, we did Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So we weren't selling anything, but really learned how to talk to people and engage them in what our event was. And from that was pretty grueling work though, because we were doing big setups and traveling all over the country with that. And then he and I decided we'd sell physical products. So that involved things like going to fairs and festivals. And eventually we got invited into the Pentagon because we were selling on military bases. They liked what we had, so we got invited into the Pentagon, went there 3 times, set up shop in the Pentagon, and sold our color-changing mugs. And so I was actually selling, but face-to-face, I call myself the ShamWow of color-changing mugs because I had to demonstrate them. And that was a very interesting experience as well. But again, we made really actually good money. We were the top sellers in the country when we were selling them. But it still wasn't like huge money, and so we kind of went through the money. We bought our first little home, after getting reestablished. And so we had this really an older mobile home in Yuma, Arizona, and we had decided to quit doing this on the road bit because it was very, very grueling setups that we were doing week after week. And I was just trying to figure out, at this point I'm past 50, right? And we're trying to figure out what can we do, because I was really the main provider for the family, and we still wanted to have an RV lifestyle. We had this mobile home. We still had an older RV. And I saw an article online about copywriting. And honestly, I didn't know what copywriting was until I read the article about it, past 50. But when I read it, I just really had this feeling like, I could do this. I really think I could do this. This was like taking that person-to-person, face-to-face stuff we've been doing and taking it into an online realm with words. And if I'd known how to be online with those mugs,
Yeah.
I'd already be, living the life of total retirement right now, because it would have been super awesome, but I didn't know how to do it. I seriously didn't know how to do anything online.
Wow.
And so when I saw this article, it was like, something just really triggered in me that I think I can do this. And even though I'd never been paid to write anything ever in my life, unless you count a memo in an office setting as a secretary. And I just thought I could do it. And I thought that about the mugs and stuff we've been doing. I always kind of just had this feeling of, I think we could do this. And so my husband was totally trusting, like, okay. And so only problem was we didn't have enough money for us to just say, well, I'll just start this new thing, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I sold that mobile home because it had a view. Yuma's not the most scenic place in the world as far as views, but it had a view of the foothills, and it had one saguaro cactus, one with the arms. And those don't grow very much in Yuma either. They do in Tucson where we are now, but not there. But we had one. And so went down to the Thrifty Nickel, our local freebie newspaper, and I had a picture of the view. And I went in and said, I'm going to sell my mobile home. Can I run the ad? And they were like, don't you want a picture of the mobile home? And I was like, no, because I'm going to sell the view. And so I had this understanding of what's important, what might be important to someone besides 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, old shag carpeting. And so took a picture of the view, and I wrote an ad that was basically, we call it now future pacing, but I didn't know that then. Imagine being able to sit here and look at this beautiful view of the foothills. I kind of wrote like that. We sold it to the first person that looked at it for cash. And so that gave a little nest egg, right?
Yes.
The reason I sold it was because I've been doing a little bit of life coaching with someone. It was just a few $100s, but it was helpful to me at the time. And I told her my story of going through this homeless thing and the RV life and all these things we were doing. And she was like, I'm having this event in Maine, and if you could get here and speak for like 15 minutes about what you're doing, I'd like you to be able to come for free if you can get here. And I wanted to go to it, but I didn't have the money. Right. And so that's when I said, we're going to do it. And that's when we sold a mobile home.
Wow.
Drove to Maine, because we sold it very quickly. Drove to Maine. I did my little 15-minute thing, had this huge reaction. It was maybe 60 people. It wasn't a huge event, but mostly women. And I just got this great feedback from just sharing my story. Yeah. And I also got my first copywriting client because I shared the fact that I wanted to start being a copywriter. I decided I was going to do that. And so there was a woman at the event that was actually a speaker, and she was having an event in Las Vegas, and she came up to me and said, I haven't been able to sell any tickets. So would you like to try writing me a sales letter, what we call a sales letter online, to sell the seats? And I was like, okay. And so I did it for just a few $100s. And to me, it was like, wow, I'm getting paid to do this thing. And so I wrote the sales letter, she put it online, and she sold out her event. And nice. So then she said, would you like to come to my event in Las Vegas? And so we went to Las Vegas, the RV life, And wow. So I went to that event just as a participant, but there was another person there that said, would you write a sales letter for me? And so I did, and so it just began. It
took off from there. I mean, there's so many things about your story that I would want to unpack, but yeah. We'd be here a long time. I mean, you have such a rich set of stories. I mean, what stands out to me is you have so much perseverance, right? Coming from the background you came from, and you have this. I feel like you have a confidence in yourself, or at least courage, which I talk to my students about, which is, maybe you don't know all the things, but you have an inkling in you that hey, let me give it a try. Let me try. Let me take the next step. And then that leads to the next step. And I feel like you have that in your story, and it's really inspiring. And so I'm thrilled you're here sharing it. And I want to get into some of the nuts and bolts of copywriting as well. So can you then break down, I think that there are, at least the way I understand it, there are different types of copywriters. So can you give us at a high level, what are the different kinds and what do you do?
Well, this is the thing. Now whether we say niche or niche, either way, I've never nichified myself, basically. Because I've had this ability to kind of step into the shoes of the prospect. And this is the thing, you have to get out of your own head and your own thinking and be able to project into what that potential client, that perfect person for your client, what you kind of message you have to communicate. So really, it's almost a little bit of not actually that there's so many different kinds of copywriting. The copywriting is copywriting. So this is the thing I really like to emphasize, that the structure of copy, that foundation, it's essential, and it's also all-encompassing. So whether you're writing for a blog, whether you're writing sales letters, whether you're putting something in the mail, whether you're writing ads in magazines, whether you're writing video scripts, the core concepts of copywriting remain the same. And that's something that sometimes there's a misunderstanding where, well, it's really corporate, so maybe that's not going to work, or really it's just for a blog, so maybe that I don't need that. But actually, I would say copywriting is the most essential ingredient for any kind of online endeavor, any kind of marketing, anything you're trying to accomplish, where especially if you want to monetize it, but also copywriting can be for things like, there's persuasion in everything from joining a church to becoming an RVer to, right. You know, that there's this persuasion at work, and that's what's at the core of copywriting. Okay. Now, sometimes, like, especially with blogging, I want to mention it because so many RVers are blogging. If you want to monetize your blog, you really need to be able to start with that core concept of understanding elements of copy, because if you want to monetize the blog and have something more than this is our beautiful view, this is what we had for dinner, this is my margarita.
Right.
There's like this invisible, I call it the invisible core, that kind of marketing message that's woven through where you're learning how to be engaging. So the people are like coming towards you, you know, and I learned this when I was selling mugs, that when I start to do my demo, people would literally come forward. And so we're doing this virtually, but you want people to come forward. Yeah. One of my pet peeves is when people write copy to say, get your favorite beverage, settle back. Right, you know, and it's like, no, we want them to come forward. We want them on the edge of their seat. We want them to be engaged. We want them to get excited. We want them to be like emotional, to feel something. So that's what we want to have in the copy, you know, and that's whether it's your blog, anything.
Well, it's like your ad when you sold.
You want to wake them up.
When you sold your RV, you were telling the story of the view. You weren't talking about, my RV has these features.
Right, exactly.
When you RV, you experience the world through this window. Right. So I really understand that. Now, what do you focus on as a copywriter? Do you have...
I'm sorry. I'm talking right over the top of you. What was that?
Okay. I said, what do you... Now, I know, so you need to have the elements of copy for anything that you write, but do you focus on a certain area? Like, are you writing more sales? Are you writing more... blogging, like, or all of it? What do you do?
Yeah, for me personally, I don't do blogging for other people, anything like that. I don't do like content creation, which is still an element of copywriting. But I write for high-level entrepreneurs, marketing strategy, laying out the entire strategy, especially using funnels where they have a multi-phase, multi-step marketing. We call it a funnel. First you're doing this, then this, then this. Just think of it as, you know, in the funnel. And so what I have done right from the beginning, now at the very beginning, I just wrote a sales letter, right? And then I started to understand that there was a lot more to that it wasn't just a one-off, one-time wonder, drive-by marketing kind of a thing. Right. And so now I lay out the whole entire strategy, everything, you know, from how this is going to begin and where are we going? Who are the people that we're speaking to? Understanding that audience. Maybe it's gathering testimonials, but it could be anything from an opt-in to a sales letter, mostly online. Most of the stuff I do is online. Sales letter, email sequences, the scripts for videos, the short video scripts, long video scripts, webinar scripts. I have one webinar script for a client right now that's an over an hour long evergreen webinar. It's converting at 33%. That's super high.
That's great.
Yes. Yeah. And so, and it's a numbers game. I mean, I've had clients that had 1% conversions that made multiple millions of dollars because they had such huge audiences. You can have a small list and convert at 50% and make a lot of money. So it's a kind of a numbers game, but that's basically what I do. I also write for like catalogs. Like I have a sawmill client. We sell huge portable sawmills all over the world. And I brought them into the online marketing arena. They were not being found basically and it's very, it may strike people as funny, but sawmills are very competitive. And and I didn't know anything about sawmills when I began. That's why I say I don't really have a niche. You know, it's more about the compatibility with the client and an understanding of what they have and the value for their audience and being able to do that. But other people just specify certain types of copy. You could make a very good living just writing emails, for example. Yeah. You could focus on one element of copy and be a specialist in that and do very, very well.
Awesome. And I want to ask you about that in a minute, actually. But I'm curious about, because you mentioned clients and Sawmill and you weren't really familiar with them and you had to learn their audience. How do you actually find clients?
Well, in the first days, I did Google Ads. You know, I did AdWords. So I invested in AdWords. I didn't really learn all that much. I knew enough to just really be able to do it, right? And it just got more and more complicated. Now I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. I don't do Google Ads. At this point, the momentum for me is referrals and finding me online, you know, that kind of stuff. Okay. But I'm going to say that one of the key things that you might have kind of heard in the beginning of the story is networking. Yeah. Networking was a huge, huge thing for me. And I have more and more stories of how it just kept growing and growing. I ended up meeting very famous copywriters, having opportunities just kind of come to me because I went to events. So I went to marketing events. Now, you don't go to a copywriting event, find a client, okay? You go to other kinds of events where they might need a copywriter. And you know what? Everybody needs a copywriter at some point if they're in marketing. And most people are like deathly afraid to try and write their own copy. They don't know what to do. And you can just be even an entry-level copywriter can start to make a very nice living because you're 3 steps ahead of the people that are going to be your clients. So these days I would say I would be using social media, I'd be doing video, being seen and heard, using your Facebook business page. You know, if you have the money for it, Facebook ads could be a possibility, but you really need to know what you're doing so you don't have a runaway with money pouring into Facebook ads that aren't working, you know, that kind of thing. Going to events and networking, I just still think that's way at the top.
Well, I'm glad you said that because, as you know, I have a course called Remote Work 101, and that's the first thing I tell my students is network and tell people what you do. I mean, you do that so well. I mean, I remember, it's like I think I met you for just a few minutes at RVE, but you stuck out in my mind because I knew you were the queen of copy. You're bright and colorful, like you have your own brand, and I think you're
that's true,
right. And you know.
Here's the
your hair and your glasses, and you just project it out and you tell people what you do and how you can help them. And I'm so happy to hear you say that you think that that's one of the best ways to find
I still think that. Yeah. And so a couple of tips for networking, if you'd like that for your audience.
Yes.
Is like when you go to the thing, it isn't just, you have to go to whatever event you're at. It's not about, I hope I get a client. Oh, I hope I get a client. But if you go thinking, how can I serve? How can I get to know these people? How can I help someone? And so like a classic thing I say at an event is, hey, how you doing? What's your name? How far did you travel to the event? And because I go to a lot of different kinds of events that aren't necessarily RV, but might have as many as 5,000 people at them, you know, a big marketing event like Funnel Hacking Live, you know. So I'll just ask, where'd you travel from? And they'll start talking and I say, so do you do anything online? And they'll start talking and then they talk about their business and I'll maybe add, have you tried this? Or do you ever do this with your product? Or, you know, I just start talking and I'll have people kind of go, oh, wow, you know, so what do you do? And what is it you do? Because I'm already contributing to them and helping them.
That's great.
And then you just have a conversation, you know, and without thinking like, how can I close this deal? You know, it's not like that at all. It's not like a grasping thing. It's like a giving and sharing thing.
I agree.
From that comes great opportunities to be able to write copy. Like I went to an event in New York City when I was very first starting. And it was going to be all these great copywriters, kind of a long story, so I'll shorten it up. But I went thinking, I'm just going to really talk to people there. And that one event ended up making me $100,000 by the time I left the event, left a 2-day event with $80,000 worth of projects, and it turned into 100. And so, you know, and that was just from going and saying, hey, hi, you know, and I was still really new as a copywriter. No one knew who I was. I, you know, barely had a website, right? It was just that I kind of out of left field. And so that's the other thing I'd really just want to encourage people to, and you don't have to go to the highest, you know, A-list copy. I've got to write for the gurus or whatever. If anything, it can be better not to in a lot of ways because there's so many just, you know, good, strong entrepreneurial businesses that need copy, you know, and so there's a lot of opportunities and it's not going to go away.
I just love it. You're so inspirational. I know that my students and the folks that read our blog are going to love this because I think that the other thing I didn't mention, I meant to in the beginning with your story, is you got started so late. And I think that's an inspiration because a lot of my folks say they feel like they have no skills or they don't know what they can do or they're feeling a little lost or insecure. And I just love that really you got going at 50. I just think that that's such a cool cool.
I don't want anybody to do the math, but if you do, this should be, I mean, like the poster child for it's never too late. Okay.
I love it. Good for you. All right. Let's get back to income really quickly. I just have a few more questions after that because you mentioned being able to make a good living. So let's talk about that. What can people expect to make as a copywriter?
Well, there's courses that say 6-figure copywriting, you know, and honestly, that is entirely possible. I mean, I did that in more my first year. Okay. I mean, I did a couple times that in my first year from absolute nothing. Okay. Absolute nothing. So I have a free workshop that I do where I actually lay this out of what you can expect as an entry-level copywriter. So one of the things I want to emphasize is I've been in the trenches with this since 2004, I think is when I started. And so I really understand what fee structures are for copywriters. And so when I say that you can learn 3 basic elements of copy and and get to a point of like that, those 3 elements could make $3,500. That's entry level. And honestly, it's entry level.
Great.
And as faster you get, the better you get. You do 2 of those in a month, so then you start raising your rates, and that's, you know, but the thing is, some people are like super happy to say, I just want to make a really reliable 50, 60, 75,000 a year, something like that.
Yeah.
Totally doable, totally doable. And so, you know, there's mindset that goes with that of how you think about what you're doing. When you're talking about the people who are saying, oh, I don't really have anything, that's where I want to emphasize, nobody came and sprinkled fairy dust on me or waved a magic wand or, you know, anointing oil or certificate of completion. I had to say that to myself. I am a freelance copywriter. And you have to own that. And you have to own it right from the beginning. Whatever the thing is that you want to do, you just really have to embrace it and own it. And understand that all your life experience, wherever you're at in life, is going to contribute to your wisdom. You have an inner wisdom more than you might even realize that goes into what you're doing. Okay.
I love it so much. I love that you said to own the identity right away, because so many people struggle with that. They have imposter syndrome, right? Well, I'm not a copywriter. I have to be in this course for a year or whatever. I love it. It's like the minute you decided you were a copywriter, that's what you were.
I have people in my program now because I say you can get started if you apply yourself. All of this requires applying yourself, right? There isn't by osmosis. Oh, I have this program and therefore, you know, I now can. You know, you have to actually do the thing, right? But like right now, I have someone in my program that was in 26 days had her first paid client.
Wow.
She never did anything before, and it more than paid for her tuition for the program.
Wow.
Not huge yet. Okay, not huge yet. But very reasonably. I mean, I have a thing in my workshop. I showed the proof from salaries.com that the average salary for a copywriter is something, we'll say salary, $69,000, I think is what it was. And that's working like in an agency, which I don't recommend. You can make more than what you could make in an agency by being a freelancer.
Right. Well, let's talk about your program a little bit, because one of my questions was, how does somebody actually get started? But I feel like, I think your program is probably one of the places to start. So why don't we talk about that? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I have a program called AuthenticCopy.com. I will say that it has a hyphen in the middle of it, which I would not recommend, but a URL, but I couldn't get it any other way. So, because this is actually the 2.0 version. I did it as a live training probably about 10 years ago, which was 1.0. And so I have not been able to get the URL without the hyphen. So it's authentic-copy.com. What I teach is 3 basic elements. Your opt-in, which is when you sign up and say you can email me, a sales letter, which is going to be your main sales message, and an email sequence. So the follow-up emails that someone might get, or it could be opt-in to emails with no sales letter in the middle. But those 3 elements can get someone started as an entry-level copywriter. And when you were talking about, oh, I don't know this, or I'm not sure what to do next, I call it like just-in-time learning. You just stay 3 steps ahead and know that I can do that, especially if you're in a program where there's kind of mentoring going on and you can actually say, am I doing this right? What do I do here? So like, for example, the student that had her first client, I helped her by looking at the emails because I do a live critique every week inside the group. So I was able to go through them with her and say, okay, here, do this and then do that. And her very first client was absolutely raving. Like, I can't even believe I got these great emails. And yeah, so it's like, it's very gratifying to me to see that happen, you know, send them out into the world kind of a thing.
That's
and so,
lovely. That's great.
And the other thing with how I teach copy, and some people might say, well, I don't know if I need that, but I start with mindset and I bookend it with spirituality. And these 2 pieces are also infused into how I teach copywriting and how I recommend people approach copywriting and working with their clients. So it's different in that sense as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things that attracted me to your work. And I've seen your webinar. I went through the whole thing, or your free workshop. And I love that you talk about kind of bringing in that. And we won't get into it too much today.
Yeah, that's another couple hours.
I don't want to like blow the cover on all the good stuff. But you're able to tap into this other source of inspiration. And I'm one of those people too. So, okay. And just to clarify, you also do teach in your course how people can charge. Is that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I will smack you around if you don't charge what you're worth, you know. And see, that's the thing. Sometimes people think, oh, you know, I'm new and I have to be all apologetic, you know, please, you know, no. You know, you don't have to do that at all. I work around and with entrepreneurs at the 7- and 8-figure level. Okay. And I'm in masterminds that have that level. And they would just like do backflips of joy if they could get that type of a project, like opt-in sales letter emails with someone that has been trained, knows what they're doing, has an understanding of some marketing. They would be out of their minds with joy at $3,500.
Right.
My fees run $40,000 to $50,000. Okay.
Wow.
So just to give you some basis of comparison, that is truly entry level. So, and did we say I started this whole business in an RV?
That's important. I think that's a detail we don't want to miss.
Work from anywhere. When my second project, I did at the Grand Tetons. And so then eventually the RVs got nicer. Now I have a custom mobile office, 45 Renegade, built on a heavy duty Freightliner chassis. It's totally set up as a mobile office. My clients know that I do this. I'm not full-time RVing now, but very, very frequently RVing because we travel back and forth cross country very regularly and up into Canada. And so I'm completely set up as a mobile office. I have been for years doing this mobile office bit since I started. It's just gotten nicer. And my clients actually love it. They're like, oh man, I want to be like you, that they want to do it, And so you don't have to hide it or anything like that either. And it's totally ideal for a mobile lifestyle.
I love it. I love it so much. Well, I see that we have just a couple minutes left. I want to leave on. I know. You and I could just talk for hours, I feel. Yep. Okay, so let's boil it down to we'll leave off with some action steps for folks. Other than taking your course, which like I said, I've seen your work. I recommend your course to people if they want to learn about copywriting. But other than that, what are like the first 3 things somebody can do to get started?
This might surprise you because one of the things I'm going to say is you need to tune up your mindset. You really need to do some work with that and be looking at different types of books or programs or teachings that help you with that, because the money mindset and success mindset is super essential. It's absolutely essential. This is where you make the decisions. It's a decision. You decide whether things are going to stop you or propel you, and you make a conscious decision. That's all part of the mindset of what can I charge? Can I really get paid that? And by the way, did I say I get paid in advance? I get paid 100% in advance before I ever do the work. Okay. Paid in advance. That's all mindset. Okay. And how you present. So I would say you need to tune up your mindset. You need to start getting those marketing antenna up there and start paying attention to things that are really attracting you, compelling you. You start to feel like, I want to do this thing. What is it that's happening here? That could be ads on television. It can be headlines on magazines when you're standing at the checkout stand at a grocery store. What's on the covers of the magazines? What made you look at it? Really start thinking. Your marketing mind should be running all the time in the background, no matter what else you're doing. Like, you should be able to start loving marketing. Be comfortable with that, because I have people that say, well, I want to write copy, but I don't like selling,
Yes.
That's another mindset issue, because are you selling or are you providing a solution for people? When you shift your mindset about that. And so I would say this is like super foundational if you want to go into marketing and copywriting. The other thing is like Dan Kennedy books all over the place on Amazon. He's been online for a long time. Interesting guy, really understands copy and marketing and some mindset issues, even though he's kind of a crusty, curmudgeon-y kind of guy. Get a few books like that. It's very.
What's his name? I'm sorry, I didn't catch the name.
Dan Kennedy.
Oh, Dan Kennedy. Okay, great.
Mindset stuff, free online. Myron Golden. Start looking at his stuff. Myron Golden is awesome, and he's all about abundance and biblical as well. If you're into the spirituality aspect, whether you're a church person or not, that's part of what his foundation is. I really admire Myron, and he's super awesome. So these are some free, copywriting books from Dan Kennedy, 10 or 12 bucks, right?
Yeah.
I will say it's very, very difficult to start doing copywriting without some kind of training. Right. But you can start laying that foundation and thinking about, would I want to be in a certain niche? Do I want to learn copywriting to sell my own stuff? Do I want to create a product for myself? Do I want to monetize my blog? Think about why you might want to do it. But certainly working with clients and getting paid online in advance, no matter where you live. I have not met the vast majority of my clients. I have not met in person.
Okay. Let me see if I can recap the 3. You did a lot, but
I might have gone 5.
I know, but I'm going to boil it down to mindset. And by the way, that doesn't surprise me because I teach the same, to me, it's so critical. So mindset, marketing, start putting yourself out there, networking like we talked about. And then I am going to say the third one is you really have to invest in yourself, take some kind of a course. And I'll link to all of the resources that you mentioned today With that, I just want to thank you again so much for being here and being an inspiration to me and also to, I know, the folks that are watching this video right now. So thank
you so much. And if it helps anybody, that just makes my day. So
awesome.
I really enjoyed it. I love talking marketing, as you can probably tell. Thanks so much, Camille. I've enjoyed it.
Thanks, Tina.